Greetings friends, welcome to my channel. I am Alexander Musienko. It's Sunday, May 18th, and as usual, I'm bringing you my briefing with operational updates and the events I consider relevant, important, and worthy of your esteemed attention. There is plenty to talk about. The fact is, while negotiations and discussions about a ceasefire and truce are ongoing, Russia continues to attack Ukraine. A huge number of shaheeds were launched by Russia across Ukrainian territory last night. We are now waiting for the statistics from the Air Force, of the armed forces of Ukraine, but at least 100. That's according to the most conservative estimates and calculations. The enemy attacked the Kyiv region. The enemy attacked Sumy and Kharkiv regions the day before. It was loud in other regions and settlements of Ukraine as well. In other words, Russia does not stop using its methods and practices of terror, while at the same time trying to cover itself, let's say with the pretense and idea that they are ready to continue the negotiation process. In reality, we can clearly see what is happening. An escalation at the front, an escalation of the air war. And I talked about the air war in a separate video of mine. Please take a look and also leave your comments. Your point of view is interesting because we need not only to state the facts, not only to analyze, but also to propose solutions, what needs to be done next and how it should be done in order to weaken the enemy, to inflict losses on them, to protect ourselves and to make them realize the futility of their hopes. That's why this is important. Well, this is how the Russian troops operate. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces responded because there was information that this weekend SBU drones struck an ammunition depot of the 126th Russian Coastal Defense Brigade near Perevalne in occupied Crimea. This was reported to Babel by sources within the SBU. Ukrainian drones attacked these depots back on May 16th. There were storage units there for military equipment, weapons and fuel and lubricants. There is information about Russian soldiers who were killed while at the military depot. The video shows powerful detonations and fires on the depot grounds. Local residents also report smoke over the military base itself, and even the highway was closed as a result. So we can see that operations on the Ukrainian side are ongoing. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts are also ongoing as they continue to consider how to achieve a ceasefire. In my opinion, and those of you who follow updates on my channel know that I've mentioned this before, it's unlikely that a truly detailed, thorough, and genuine ceasefire regime can be established before autumn. This is because Russia will try to take advantage of the summer offensive campaign and will attempt to use it to improve its own tactical position, in order to continue putting pressure on Ukraine and to try to have a stronger position for themselves in negotiations. It's obvious. And we see that they continue to do this because at first there were calls to ceasefire earlier, starting from May 9th for 30 days. Then on May 10th, the corresponding declaration of the Coalition of the Willing was adopted. The United States supported it. Then on the 15th, there were hopes for Istanbul, although, as I told you, you shouldn't think that something will happen. Then on the 16th, it seemed like we had something. Well, then the 17th, and now it's already the 18th. Russia continues to attack, and unfortunately, no additional sanctions against Russia have been imposed yet. We are waiting for May 20th, because this should be the day when the European Union can finally approve what was previously decided by the EU ambassadors regarding the introduction of stronger sanctions, which in particular concern the Russian oil tanker fleet. I hope that this will be approved, although, as French President Emmanuel Macron points out, he says that they are still waiting for US leadership and that Trump should respond to Putin's cynicism. French President Macron expressed confidence that the US president will respond to the behavior of the Russian leader amid attempts to start negotiations to end the Russian-Ukrainian war. He stated this on BFM TV. Macron expressed confidence that Trump will respond appropriately to Putin's behavior in response to attempts to initiate a ceasefire and negotiations to end the war. Given how cynically Putin is behaving, I believe, even I'm convinced that Trump, caring about the trust in the United States, will respond to this. He was elected by the American people. He came to office with the noble goal of ensuring peace and said that he would involve everyone in achieving this goal. Putin and his army have shown no respect for the ceasefire proposals, which I remind you were an American initiative. President Macron's timely reminder that after all, this is an American initiative and we would all like to see more real, bold and decisive actions from our strategic partner across the ocean. And what is happening there now? Once again, there is discussion about the need to talk to Putin. The thing is, information has emerged that Donald Trump announced he would speak by phone with Russian President Putin on Monday at 10 in the morning. The topic of the conversation is stopping the bloodshed, in which more than 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers die every week, as well as trade. After that, I will speak with the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, and then with other NATO member countries. I hope it will be a productive day, that a ceasefire will be announced, and that this extremely brutal war, which should never have happened, will come to an end. God bless everyone. While Trump keeps hoping further and further, how many times during his term have we actually heard statements and assurances that Putin is supposedly going to listen to him, that he believes Putin will cease fire, that he believes Putin is ready to stop the war? What are these conclusions based on? And why is there such trust? Of course, the question remains open. And it is a difficult one, because so far there are no signs that Russia is interested in stopping the bloodshed or that Russia is ending the war. Again, judging by the situation at the front, judging by last night, the insane number of Shaheds that the enemy launched across Ukraine, the strike on a bus carrying civilians in the Sumy region, which resulted in civilian deaths, other examples of Russian terror, all of this is happening. And at this point, bolder steps need to be taken. So we will see how the United States acts, whether they will apply additional elements of pressure going forward. But so far, there are no visible additional elements of pressure on Russia, although there are certain glimmers of hope, because US Secretary of State Mark Rubio had a phone conversation with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov. Obviously, this is also connected to the preparation for the phone conversation between Trump and Putin on Monday. These are preparatory talks. And according to the Russian Foreign Ministry, both Russia and the US supported the proposal for a prisoner exchange of 1,000 for 1,000 and preparations for a ceasefire in Moscow. In Moscow, they say that the call was initiated by the American side, and Lavrov noted the positive role of Washington in Ukraine's acceptance of Putin's proposal to resume negotiations in Istanbul. There is information from certain publications that Rubio allegedly warned Lavrov that if steps are not taken toward a ceasefire, Congress will indeed consider a bill to introduce 500% tariff restrictions and sanctions against those countries and companies that purchase Russian gas, uranium, and oil. If this is really the case, then ultimately it is a good sign. This is, you'll agree, what we have been waiting for and counting on for a long time, and what needs to be done. Because both the US, you see, and the European Union are also watching. For example, the European Union is watching the Americans, they are watching Trump, just as French President Macron says that we hope Trump will respond to Putin's cynical actions, because after all, in maintaining this transatlantic unity, no matter what anyone says, the role of the United States is leading, decisive, and important. That is, without them, in fact, it's difficult for the Europeans to make decisions. And when there is someone to look to for guidance, then decisions are made more quickly. That's how it works. Yes, that's the way it is today, after all. So we'll see. They've given Putin a little more time. They've given him another chance to think it over, to come to his senses. Enough. Let's stop the fighting already. Let's move on to real negotiations. Trump will try to talk to him once again. And if Putin still doesn't cease fire, and the chances of that are high, well, what then? Will there be new sanctions packages, ones that really can't be postponed any longer? What excuses could possibly be made then? What happened? How many appeals to Putin have to be made? How united does the world have to be? How many ideas and proposals do the United States have to put forward? After all, President Macron rightly pointed out that the idea of a 30-day ceasefire actually came from the American side. And if the current administration is unable to ensure the implementation and observance of this, then questions arise about American leadership in the world. What is it and whose is it? That's what this is about. This, by the way, is also what Macron is talking about the need to support this leadership, to demonstrate it, to defend it. It needs to be reaffirmed and established. And then there will be appropriate respect. And then dictatorial regimes around the world will not dare to raise their heads, unite, band together, and try to impose their own agendas, worldviews, and visions for the development of our planet. So we are waiting. In the meantime, some information has appeared. Well, for example, Ukraine's foreign minister, Sibiha, said that Istanbul is not an indulgence for Russia. The world must strike harder than with the 17th package of sanctions. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Russia must not be allowed to use its advantage in Istanbul as a propaganda show or a way to buy time. According to him, Putin does not want peace. He is pretending to be constructive in order to delay new sanctions and maintain control over the war. We have reaffirmed our commitment to peace and are bringing back 1,000 of our people. But Putin is pretending in order to keep the war going. You know how many times I used the word imitation last week, and not just then, but even earlier. Well, in reality, what we see is that this is an imitation on Russia's part, that this is just stalling for time, that they are not striving for or wanting real peace to come. This is exactly what the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine confirms, and I think it's entirely appropriate to agree with him in this situation. Meanwhile, CNN reports that Putin is at the negotiating table and that he wanted this meeting. And as Trump said, he did not want to call Putin an obstacle to establishing peace with Ukraine during an interview with Fox News. So what did he want? He said that they need to meet with Putin, yes, and that this will be scheduled soon. According to him, he is tired of others going instead of him and conducting negotiations. At the same time, Trump recalled a difficult conversation with Zelensky and repeated his usual complaints about American financial aid to Ukraine. Well, it's the same thing, going in circles. You know, like a record that just keeps spinning, although it doesn't change the songs, just keep playing over and over. In other words, we don't see any real